Planning and Zoning officially to order. And I'll remind anyone, one person from the public and anyone that may be attending online, that we are just an advisory board. The final decisions for these meetings are made with the City Council, but we study the issues and make recommendations. I'd like to officially welcome you again.
Thank you.
Jeff, and I do have a question before we get started. We now have a full board, but we have the 2 alternate seats are open. So are we doing anything to fill those? Because there is turnover here and there are vacations. So is there anything in the works?
Searching for applicants.
And how are we searching?
It was on the Facebook at one time. I don't know how long ago that was.
I just posted it not too long ago.
Yeah.
on Facebook.
So if you know of anyone that would be willing, by all means, have them contact us.
And I think that goes for all of us, if you know anyone. But if you would just post again if we need alternates. Okay, as we received some new minutes tonight, but we're responsible for 3 different sets of meeting minutes. Has everyone had a chance to look over those minutes?
Mr. Kerrigan, I need to do the roll call.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed the roll call. Please proceed with that.
Ms. Logan,
Here.
Mr. Bacon,
Here.
Mr. Adams,
Here.
Mr. Van Arsdale,
Here.
Mr. Kerrigan.
Here. Okay, thanks, Tammy. 3 sets of meetings. Has everyone had a chance to look over those minutes? And if so, do you have any questions or comments on the minutes? Okay, if there are no questions, would anyone like to make a motion to approve the minutes for 3 different meetings, Feb. 2, March 2, and March 12?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Did you capture that, Tammy?
Mhm. Ms. Logan,
Yes.
Mr. Bacon,
Yes.
Mr. Adams,
Yes.
Mr. Van Arsdale,
Yes.
Mr. Kerrigan.
Yes. Okay, we got the minutes approved. All right, we're moving into the regular agenda, and we have 3 different components to this. I think there were 165 pages, and somewhere reflected in the minutes, Mr. Attorney and Ms. Planner, you guys were going to go back and straighten out some of the language from previous meetings. And so are you prepared to present that tonight?
Yes.
Is that in this material?
Yes,
Okay,
so, yes,
all right. So if you just want to start us off.
of course. Yes, so the first item on the regular agenda is consideration of changes to the proposed Article 8, which is just a renumbering from Article 7, since we're shifting back Articles 4 and up to create a new Article 4 regarding development standards. So this the new Article 8 has the renumbering accordingly. It also has the changes that we talked about in session at the last meeting. If you have a color copy, you can see there's a blue font and a red font. The red font is the new changes, or the new language, or the changes from the last meeting. And so there's really a minor change on page 1. I had noticed that I hadn't noticed before, that we were talking about septic tanks, and we don't have septic tanks, so I made that amendment to say wastewater. The material that's on, this is the stricken through page that I'm referring to. This is page 8-3 and 8 through 8-13. 14, we're going to talk about in a minute. This is the section that's now Article 4, so don't worry, it's not going away, it just moved forward. And so then if we go to page 8-15, you'll see a lot of red here, and these are the things that are new from your last session that Tim and I talked about, that we talked about during the meeting, that reflect those opinions that we had and the changes that we needed to make. So these are things that you've heard and you heard us talk about. Tim and I met and talked about this last week, and these are part of his recommended changes, and then what we talked about during the meeting. And if you want to go through those section by section, we can do that, but it basically, I just want to affirm that it just is what we talked about, and includes that language from the last meeting.
And we do need to officially open the public discussion. And I know there's a lot of sort of back and forth in this because we're going through a bunch of comprehensive materials. So if there is a public comment that you'd like to make at this time,
No,
I
sir.
would invite you to do that. Okay. And when you do, you have to do the thing. We're going to follow that procedure. So, okay. Then press onward, please.
So if there is a recommendation for this Article 8, to accept those changes, I would hope I could get a vote for that, so that when it comes back to you in full, we know that this part was already
Okay.
accepted.
If that closes the public discussion, we'll open the board portion of it. Any questions on what Laura's presenting now? Go right ahead, Lisa.
Okay, go to the black copy,
What page?
page 8-12.
Okay.
Okay, down near the bottom, under 80502 non-conforming structures, all the way down to D, it says, legal non-conforming non-residential structures which were in existence for usage prior to the adoption or amendment of this code may continue in perpetuity or be replaced or reconstructed within 3 years of the removal date or date of destruction within the building footprint in which they were previously located. Why are we going to allow things to be rebuilt when did we do this before the hurricane? I know we had the hurricane
That
provision.
sounds like a hurricane clause.
Yes, it does. So my question is why?
I think it's a valid question. You have any thoughts on that, Laura?
Because I thought we had decided, maybe I'm wrong, but, so this is saying that if you're legal prior to the existence of the code, you can continue forevermore. If you have to be replaced or reconstructed, you have to do it within 3 years of the removal date or the date of destruction within the building footprint of which it was there before the destruction. So, I'm trying to recall why we put that 3 years in there. That wouldn't have been me because the ones that I've written are usually 6 months, but, so it must have been something that was done earlier.
Well, I question why it's in there because yes, that sounds exactly like
When
hurricane.
we talk about 3 years and original footprint,
Yes,
that
that's
sounds
hurricane.
like hurricane language.
Yeah.
That
And
when we were talking about things that may have been outside of setback or non-conforming in
Yes.
some other way, there was an exception. You're allowed to build back to what you had before for 3 years.
yes,
But it had to be in the original footprint, and then that 3 years, I think, was extended a little bit, but,
yes, but even the extension is over with now. And
right.
my question is, in the past, before the hurricane, we did not have anything like this, so we should not be adding that now. If it was non-conforming and it was destroyed or whatever, it had to conform to the standards that were in place at that time until we came to the hurricane. So I would suggest that we don't include that, or that we take the 3 years out.
Yeah, so I agree that I would put I would end the sentence after,
Perpetuity.
yeah, after perpetuity.
Okay,
This is one of the ways you'll cut off non-conforming stuff.
Okay,
structures.
okay, so, so it ends at after in perpetuity. Okay. Now, then that makes me wonder if it's the non-conforming structures which were in existence prior to the code, if something happens to them, where do we have that spelled out what they can, why would they be allowed to continue in perpetuity if something happened?
So usually there's a 50% rule.
Yes.
Did you say that on?
Maybe add some language in here about
Yeah,
if it's damaged or destroyed, damaged more than 50% of the fair market value or destroyed, then it will have to comply with the current code.
That's how we
That's how
have
we-
usually do it, yeah.
yeah. We have that under use. I must have just missed that on the term, we did that under structure.
Okay. Okay.
So what do you say? You got lost me. What do you say?
So what we're saying is that if there's a building
Yeah.
that was on a piece of property and it was constructed in 1985,
Mm-hmm.
and in 1985, we didn't have setbacks, we didn't have height limits,
Right.
and so it might not meet current setbacks or height limits. But, so that's considered non-conforming structure.
That's right.
Because it doesn't conform to our code. It's allowed to continue on forevermore unless it is damaged or destroyed by more than 50%, and then it has to be brought into compliance with the current
It's
regulations.
brought back up to code.
To the, yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, which is what we generally said
Mhm.
before the hurricane, that's how we handle stuff.
But if it's damaged at 40%, then you don't have to do that.
Exactly, exactly.
okay,
That would typically be based on fair market value.
yeah. I think that's a FEMA thing.
And you have 3 years to do that.
No.
No.
3 years is out,
3 years is out.
because that was
That
just a
was-
Hurricane Michael thing that we allowed.
Okay.
Do you have another question? If I may?
Mhm.
Okay, now switch over to the red and blue.
Page. What page?
Page 23, 823. Prior to this 823, go down a little over halfway, number 4, says wastewater, sanitary sewers struck out, wastewater is there. And it says the calculation of increment of demand shall be blah, 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 and it's all stricken. I'm just curious as to why this calculation is omitted when the other calculations just above that for water and increment of demand were all included. Why was that stricken?
It's now 90% of the development's projected potable water demand, not to exceed a total citywide usage of 0.473 million gallons per day. And that's comprehensive plan. It's just taken from the comprehensive plan level of service standards.
Well, it just,
Because those above don't have that percentage requirement spelled out.
it doesn't make sense not to have that formula in there as we have the formula.
And does that apply to both? It was different for residential and commercial.
It is different for residential and commercial, yes.
Lisa, does that answer your question on that or still?
Well, not really. I just, that formula, even though it, there is the statement 90% of the development projected potable water, that calculation is always in there, and since we have the calculation for water and others that have remained in there, see the original calculations. Man,
And I still have a question on who it applies to, residential or commercial. How does the,
It applies to both. When we look at policy 4.A.1.2 of the comprehensive plan, which is the wastewater level of service standard, and it states 90% of the potable water level of service standard. So it's just this is just reflective of what we adopted in the comprehensive plan.
and I don't doubt that we adopted it already, but if I'm looking at it as a resident and reading the way it used to read as residential, and I don't consider that I live in a development, it now reads 90% of the development's projected.
Mhm.
So just remember that we're looking at these when new development comes in, before anybody's occupied the building. So we're doing a forecast of what that's use will use. And so we would take the number that we determined from the potable water, and there's two different numbers, one residential and non-residential, so it depends on, here again, whether or not your use is residential or non-residential. So once we determine that potable water usage, 90% of that is the wastewater usage.
So this is only intended to be
Of
read or interpreted by a developer, not someone coming to build an individual home and see how it's
Correct, because
multiplied.
that should have been, if we're talking about a subdivision plat, we would have captured that during the subdivision plat review to understand the water and sewer demands of that development. This is for forecasting, to determine the needs of the specific development to the city's services.
How's that, Lisa?
Well, it doesn't set well with me, but if I'm outvoted, I'm outvoted. I like the formula to be there so that people can see what it is.
The formula actually would not be right, given the comp plan, the 90%, because the formula is 250 for residential, and it's not, it's 90%. And you could put a number in there, or you could just say, here's the comp plan, 90%.
Work, okay. All right. Any-
I think the question you had there, though, is this all for development. One, are you questioning about an individual? If somebody just, does this affect, like, I built my own house, does this affect?
That was the question. Is this intended for a homeowner that's building his own house, or does our?
No. No, we have something called, there's something called a de minimis exception in Florida statutes, that if it's such a small impact to a system, you don't have to account for it.
Okay.
But should you kind of say that?
It's a
Yeah,
statutory, it's in statutory language, yeah.
This is just to facilitate planning on the bigger picture for the city.
Okay, makes sense.
And again, it's not guaranteed, depending on what you all recommend and what you council adopts. It's not guaranteed till they pay their fees, so that you can plan for it, but if they never develop the project, then they don't get to keep their allocation and come back 10 years later and say, oh, well, you said I could put this development in, your development order long since expired.
Okay.
Which is actually a problem that we have had in the past where they have come in 10
Therein
plus.
lies why you don't want to guarantee it until they pay the money. Once they pay the money, you've taken their money and now you're committed.
Well, that's right. All right, any other questions on this section?
Go to page 45, I have one more, page 45 in this same blue-red.
845.
Yes, middle of the page, D,
That's what we were just talking about before.
okay. That was gonna be the question, is it the same thing?
Yeah.
Okay,
So this period after perpetuity, strike the rest, is that correct?
And add a 50% language, yeah.
And 50% of the destruction.
Okay. And that is almost the end of that section. Anything on 846 or 47?
No, all my questions are answered.
So do we need a motion and a vote per section?
You don't have to, I mean, if you all are comfortable with this version, you know, at some point, the Lord's gonna bring back
The whole thing,
Okay,
yeah.
all right. Just
But, you
Just
know,
for the
on
record,
on the record, you all are agreeing that it's in the form you want it,
With that one change.
with that one change.
Okay. If that one's complete, we are moving on to item number 2. Laura, if you would present that one.
Yes, so this is consideration of moving portions of the previous 7, which I just discussed and showed you were pages that were in this section we just talked about, to a new Article 4, which is going to be called Approval of Land Disturbance and Development Activities. So because the renamed chapter, Article 3 is Development Standards, then we're going into how we get those approved, those developments approved. So this new Article 4 has a lot of what was in that previous Article 7 included. It also has statutory language which has changed within the last 2 years about the approval of developments and how much time we have. It does not mention the fees associated if we violate or exceed those timeframes, but that is all in the statute, so it still applies whether we mention it or not. But so generally, we're talking about how a project gets approved when it is submitted to the city and what is required to be submitted, formats that we want to look at, and categories of review. So we have, there were, I believe, 5 categories prior. Now there's 3 categories, 2 of which are administrative, and then the major development order process, which is a quasi-judicial hearing. And so as we go through, we can see how the sections, or some of the specific sections are specific to the administrative, the minor, and the major development approvals. So that once you have determined what level of development you have, you can go to that section to determine what you need to submit and how it's processed. But generally, all of the development that comes into the city is discussed here on the first couple pages. We talk about who is required to receive development approval, what happens if you don't get development approval before you start development activity, which is the violations section, what you should do before you even start, which we recommend that you have a pre-app meeting with the city to understand some of the things that you might not know otherwise as a applicant. What's exempt from the development review activity and the permitting activity, and those include no exterior changes made to the building, no change of use, no impervious surfaces are added. The activity is limited to the removal of hazardous or dying trees. There's a blanket exemption, such as what we had with Hurricane Michael. That was pretty common across our region. Construction of fences, and certain signage that we exempted in the sign section that we talked about a few months ago. There is a period of validity, and that is 180 days from the date the development is approved, and up to 2 extensions can be applied for. The first, prior to 30 days of expiration, you can apply for another 180 days, and the second, prior to 30 days of the second expiration, you can apply for another 90 days, and that would be your limit. We do allow, as the statutes do, that any approved development order can get an extension as a result of an executive order from the governor. that has declared a state of emergency. And that's kind of outlined with the statute number, because there's a lot of parameters there, so we refer you to the statute to look at that. If you withdraw the application, your fees are not resubmitted back to you, you're forfeiting those fees. If you have a variance that you're looking for in conjunction with, you can apply at the same time. It can run concurrently, but the applicant is aware, must be made aware that if he or she does not get the variance, then the risk of the burden of that is on the applicant, that the site plan must adhere to this code. We request a pre-application meeting, and then we talk about appeals, which is another section. If you want to appeal, you go to Article 8. So then we get into the administrative review, which is defined here as sign permits, removal of protected trees, driveway permits that aren't associated with a bigger site plan, installation or construction of an accessory use, expanding a dock, a boathouse, or other water-dependent structure, temporary uses, not exceeding 2,000 square feet in impervious surface, expansion of the footprint of a residential structure, construction of a single residential structure outside of a platted approved subdivision. So if anybody has a house that's not in a platted subdivision, they're exempt from this process. A non-residential change that does not involve an increase to the impervious surface coverage or any traffic generated, any lane clearing, grading, or filling not associated with a development order, and any development that does not qualify for a minor or major development. Those are all administrative reviews. So it's basically a short window, something simple that we can review, and usually doesn't require any stormwater review. That we can issue quickly. So it's done in-house, doesn't go to hearing. The minor development review is the next step up. So now that we're not allowed to take plats before quasi-judicial hearing, this includes plat approval, so it's handled administratively. Development of a residential structure up to a quadruplex that's not part of a platted subdivision, and any non-residential use that consists of 5,000 square feet of impervious surface or less, and any non-residential change or expansion of use or structure that involves an increase of impervious surface coverage that does not exceed 5,000 square feet or greater, or any increased traffic generated. And then anything else pretty much is a major development review. And then we go through the processes for each one of those for the applicant, so that they have clear defined procedures. This is now also something that the statutes have recently changed, that we have to be very upfront with what we require of an applicant. So these are pretty detailed instructions on how to get through the approval process and what you are required to submit. Which includes, we have a whole laundry list: proof of ownership. You have to show the current and the future use of the property, the location of the structures that are going to be developed, setbacks, impervious surface, a sketch of the property with a north arrow, adjacent roadways, an indication of the categories that are adjacent, a height, and a narrative describing the proposed development. That is basically, that was for the administrative approval. And we have, again, a list of what's for minor, and then a list for which is major, and that list gets longer and longer as we get down through those three processes. And something new then, as towards the end of this article, is their certificate of acceptance, and that is the process of doing an inspection after all of the groundwork has been approved, to make sure that the development is compatible with what they were approved for in the development order. So somebody would go back out there and look and count the parking spaces and check the setbacks and make sure everything was planted in the way that they were approved for. And then they get their certificate of acceptance. What you see at the very end, bonding and surety assurances, guarantees, that's something I ran out of time and didn't get in here, but that would be like a bond that we would require the developer to place with the city in order to make sure that all of these things are done. If all of these things aren't done or aren't done to the satisfaction, then we can take from that bond to pay for those improvements.
Is that bond a percentage?
I am not in the bond industry, so it's usually an amount that is related to, somehow is related to the improvements of the development.
And the cost to the developer is usually 10% of whatever the bond amount is. So they can either put up a cash bond or they could put up a regular traditional bond, which would be the 10%.
Thanks for your overview. Let's open, is there a public, I want to open the public discussion. Is there a comment on this?
I'm sorry, repeat that.
Do you have a comment? Would you like to comment?
On what, bonds?
On this
The development.
section that she just.
No.
Okay, all right, well, public discussion, we'll open the board discussion. So had you finished your?
Yes, for this
review of
section,
one?
yes.
For this section, okay.
Okay. I am very unhappy with the way this has been redefined, the reviews. I think that having gone from the 5 specific reviews down to these 3 is...
And direct us to where you are, which page?
Okay, let's see. Look at your black copy and go to, starting with page 4. It says categories of development review.
Page 4-4.
Yes, 4-4. Up at the top, it says categories of development review, and then that continues on to 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. I feel very strongly that the categories of administrative development review and minor development review,
There's a typo in categories.
Thank you.
yes, strip the protection for the city out of what already exists. Now, I understand that we have new legislative rules that we are required to follow. So, are we allowed to maintain what is in our rules? Does the new ruling state that we must remove the language?
I don't think it says you have to remove it, but what do you
What
want to
language?
retain from the old? What other categories do you want to have?
Well, I'm unhappy with the minor development review. It leaves out all of the things that we used to have control over that are in the struck out version. We are missing the canal development order from the old one, which we have used dozens upon dozens upon dozens of times to control what is built in the canal. That's not even in here anymore.
It is.
Where is it?
Anything water dependent. It's referred to as water dependent instead of canal.
Where is it?
There is a section 4.01.01 part E,
On page,
4-4.
You said B?
E,
E.
Oh, E.
installation or construction of new or expanded dock, boathouse, or structure, or other water-dependent structure.
So currently, the canal development order is any construction activity along the canal of the types that described below but not meeting the criteria for a major commercial development order are processed and approved by the Mexico Beach Building Department.
okay, that is under an administrative development review in the new version, which is approved by the city administrator.
Right, currently they're approved by Mexico Beach Building Department.
The council has always approved what is built on the canal.
Well, I'm reading right from the code.
Well, it may be written that way in the code, but it has always been brought to the council. Because if these things are now to be approved by the administrator, then the people on the surrounding property, the neighbors, have no way of knowing that any of these developments are going to be done. This has always been brought into a public meeting so that the public has an idea of what's happening next door to them. And so that's what I'm saying, it strips away the controls that we
But
have
how,
had.
how do we know it's always been brought into a public meeting if the code doesn't say that now? I'm trying to clarify what has been and what we're changing to.
Mel, can you shed any light
Not at all.
Okay, I can tell you that I have never seen a canal construction that was not brought to the council, at least to give them knowledge.
There's a lot of canal construction, are there individual homes?
You talk about boathouses and things of that sort?
Boathouses and seawalls. I think that,
I'm not aware that seawalls ever came to the council.
they did.
What would the council be reviewing about a seawall?
Anything. Let's see if I can find it here. Okay.
You are correct that this code currently says installation and construction of seawalls, but it currently is processed and approved by the Mexico Beach Building Department. It doesn't say.
All that shit.
For canal and major commercial development orders, the proposal shall be placed on the agenda of the next meeting of the Planning and Zoning Board, which was noticed pursuant to Article 1. Then the Planning and Zoning did it, then it went to the council.
Where are you reading from, Lisa? Just-
Okay, on your deleted, your struck through,
Mhm.
page 6.
Can you say the section number? I don't know what deleted section you're referring to.
This, I have no idea what section number it is.
Deleted page down at the bottom.
It's number 2.
Yeah, what page down at the bottom?
This is, says deleted page 6. This is,
She's reading from right here. Number 2, about 3/4 down. For canal and major commercial development orders, the
Yeah.
proposal shall be placed on the agenda of the next meeting of the Planning and Zoning Board, which was noticed pursuant to Article 1.
Which number is that? 202?
2,
0202? Part A?
page 6.
Page 6.
Deleted page
2 is
6 is
correct.
item 2, about 3/4 of the way down.
That's, okay. What is this under though?
Under-
I'm looking at the section header.
I think it's under
Under
major
major
development, major commercial development.
Commercial development. That'll be marina.
Yeah.
That's what,
It would have to be a marina or something for a major commercial development on the canal.
well,
Yeah, seawall would be major then, right?
It would be a major commercial development.
this is so terribly confusing.
It is because it's not, it's internally inconsistent. Because over here it says the Mexico Beach Building Department approves it.
So E is intended to be the residential, single residential dock, not a commercial dock.
On the, which,
On the administrative development review. Anything commercial, a commercial docking facility would be a major development.
well, that would be considered a marina, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying, the only major commercial thing I could think is it's, unless somebody built a restaurant maybe on the canal, but it would have to be either a restaurant or a marina. I can't think of anything else commercially that you would put.
A marina would be a major development review.
Right. Well, that's what she's referencing.
All right, so y'all think that that just is just for major commercial, and it doesn't apply to this? Okay, then let's go back, if you will, bear with me.
Hang on just a second, Lisa. What if we put, some qualification of that new or expanded individual dock or single family, you know, in other words, non-marina, just to clarify that it's not gonna be a marina. That way, it's clear the administrative is just little stuff.
I think that clarification would be helpful.
Or residential, yeah.
Do you think there's any residential docks out there that serve more than 2 boats?
I don't think they get an exemption under FDP to have a great enough dockage area to serve more than 2 boats. Do you?
So that's what I'm wondering, if we just qualify it with, that serve no more than 2 boats.
Or that qualify for an exemption from permitting by FDP.
There are a couple of lots that have more than one boat on.
And someone might consider a personal watercraft a boat.
Yeah.
I think quantifying it gets difficult.
I would just say that's adjacent to a residential lot.
Okay.
I thought we had a section on marinas and all like that once upon a
Well,
time.
if it's adjacent to a residential lot, it could still be multifamily. And it could
Yeah,
still.
multifamily, I mean, to include multifamily residential condos.
So that's why I was trying to make it 2 or less boats. Qualify it with 2 or less boat facilities.
Let's look at the exemption requirements of FDP, if that would satisfy it. So, we
You
can.
can look at that one.
Well, she and I think or something.
All right.
I have looked at those, I just don't have them memorized. I think it has to do with square footage of dock area.
That's how the exemption is set out, that it can only go so far out, you can only have so much square footage. Has to be applied for by an individual applicant, so we can limit that.
Okay.
Now, you don't say under major development review, and if this is what Ms. Logan is talking about, should you include a marina under, as E, for instance?
Well, I was trying to capture that with any land development activity that is not listed as either an administrative or minor development review is a major.
Does that satisfy you, Ms. Logan?
Yes, thank you.
The only thing I saw, Laura, you and I talked about that, never in the loop on a major development. I don't know if we close that loop on 402 or 4. You pick the statute language when it's deemed complete or incomplete after the 3rd review by the city. We're talking about the timing of
Yeah,
how long it is to.
well, this
Yeah,
language right here
process.
under 402.04 is statutory.
Yeah, it's a statutory language, but again, you and I talked about the fact that in theory,
That was up
it
higher.
never gets deemed complete.
Yeah, that was a different section.
If you tell them, if you're doing a review on a major development, and you go back to them twice, and they give you their input, and they give you input, and the 3rd time you're looking at it, it's still not complete.
Yeah, it's on 4.7 under 4B. That's where I added it. It just says we have to move on, we have to process it.
Okay.
Okay, tell me
That makes
this.
sense to you, Tim?
Excuse me.
Maybe we want to reference that section. Do you want to reference where you did that, for, your 402.01E4?
Well, we're talking about 2 different things here. This is talking about deeming it complete, and this is talking about approved, denied, or approved with conditions within 180 days. So this is just saying that we have to deem the application complete within a certain amount of time and move forward. This one, this other section is different. This is the timing of the final decision.
Right, but the whole process has to be done within 180 days.
Pursuant to Florida statute.
Right. But if during that process it's never deemed complete, then how do you get to
Then you
402?
deny it. That's what this is 4B saying, then you just deny it because
Okay.
it's not.
Any questions? Mel, any questions from you, if you might be the party that's denying it?
Well, it's kind of the same concern I had. If you deny it, then they're starting, then gotta give you the information they didn't have the first time.
Yeah, but after you tell them that 3 times, I mean, the 3rd time they're out of luck. They can't submit anything else.
When you think after 1 or 2 times, they'd get it right.
Well, you would think so,
Totally.
but that doesn't always
It's in
happen.
their best interest to move along.
Okay, this is a question for Laura. On your black copy, the proposed one on page 5, 4-5, under minor development review, section 40102, minor development review, is let's see, A, B, C, and D, are all 4 of those now required through the new legislation?
Only A.
Only A.
Subdivisions have to be approved outside of the council. And the council has entered an ordinance that designates the city administrator to do that approval.
Say that one more time.
The statute required that the council no longer be involved in the plat approval process.
Plat approval, yes.
And
Remember that.
therefore, they had to designate somebody
Right.
to do that. And they designated,
I remember when that took place last year. Okay. So, that's A.
well, that's the first part of A. The second part is saying that the acceptance of the improvements is a major development review. So the council has to agree to accept for maintenance purposes the improvements that are actually constructed in the subdivision.
Okay.
So that, and that should be done, relatively soon after the development, as opposed to, what we're struggling with now on these 2, Casuna,
Years later.
the other one, yeah.
Okay. All right, so in the minor development review, under C, any non-residential use that consists of 5,000 square feet of impervious surface coverage or less. And this is something that can be approved just by the city administrator. My concern is 5,000 square feet is a lot of feet.
It's
Lot of
about half
space.
of the grocery store. The grocery store's about 10.
If something like this and something like D, right below it, go just to the city administrator. And I know it says non-residential, but we have residential butting up against commercial. So how does the public, how do the neighbors next door to C and D know what's happening when the only person who knows what's happening is now the city administrator?
So I hear you say that your biggest concern is people need to know what's happening.
Yes.
So I don't know if there's a way for the city to make that kind of announcement and that public notice announcement. But what's happening is whenever somebody submits a request for a development order, it has to be reviewed against this code and this plan. And it has to be consistent with this code and this plan. And that's not waivable unless they apply for a variance for something. So as long as it meets this code and this plan, we can't deny it. So if there's a way for a public notice to be made still, and people are aware, then maybe there's one avenue to look at that. But it's just, I understand how people want to know what's going on in their community, and there's a way to help maybe make notification. But I don't know how a QJ hearing is going to, as long as this meets the requirements of the code, they're gonna have to approve it.
That's right.
Because if the public, the people surrounding that are adamant enough, and I have seen this, maybe y'all don't remember any of it, it can make the developer change some of the things that the public doesn't like. But if they don't know that this is happening, then they have no opportunity to weigh in on this. And trust me, if somebody was wanting to build 5,000 square feet of non-residential next door to me, and I didn't know about it, I would be thoroughly teed off.
Well, that's why we have buffering requirements.
Those, in
Setbacks.
Mexico Beach, buffering is a joke. Always has
That's
been.
coming next.
So,
Well, that is, I don't typically calculate square footage, but that is not a big piece of property. It's nowhere near the grocery store that you just referenced. If my math is accurate, that's 75 by 75.
It's about 10,000 square foot store.
I know I live on a lot that's 100 by 100, and that's fairly common in many parts of Mexico Beach, which greatly exceeds 5,000 square feet.
so you're saying it doesn't matter whether people know about it or not?
I think what she's saying is, so we might be upset about it, but you're just giving people an opportunity to complain about it, but as long as it meets the code, it's going to be approved.
Well,
You can't
You can change the square footage. I mean, if that causes a majority of you heartache, then you could talk about changing the square
I would
footage.
say 5,000 square feet is a minor development as it's classified right now.
And again, that's the way it's written. So, I mean, if the majority of you believe that that's a minor development and doesn't require any notice, then, I mean, I hate to say it, but you'd be outvoted.
I realize I'm being outvoted, and I have to accept that, but what I am saying is I am thinking that the people have a right to know what is going on right next to them or 2 houses down from them, and every step that we take that prohibits that information from going out to the public is not helpful to the citizens in the town. And in the end of all of this, this document is supposed to be written for the city and for the residents. And if we keep removing information from the people's hands, I say that that is wrong. That's my stance.
Well, I mean, I will say, and maybe it's because but I look at what permits are pulled in this town. I mean, they're on the website. Like, I see if you really want to see what's going on in town, you can find it. I mean, it's on the website. Now there's somebody putting a roof on their house. I mean, so I don't know what it would necessarily serve. As long as, yes, if somebody's looking for a variance on something or something's going to be outside of what is clearly defined, yes, I think that needs to be
Well, and you
noticed.
put the sign up, you
Right.
put that blue sign up.
Will that blue sign be going up?
No,
for
if
these
it's a
things?
variance.
If it's outside the zone.
If it's a major
Well, then it's
development or a
outside
variance,
this
it
code.
would.
Well,
And what is changing now? It sounds like
Yeah,
Lisa's
so,
implying that in the past it has been done that way. What is changing?
and currently, we have 5, like I mentioned, we have 5 categories. We have a basic development order, a minor residential development order, a major residential development order, a minor commercial development order, a major commercial development order, so we have 6, and then the canal. I took the minors, residential, minor, commercial, and just put them into a minor.
Yeah.
I took a major commercial and a major residential, and it's just a major development, whether it's commercial or residential, it doesn't matter, it's still a major development. You don't currently have these square footage thresholds between minor and major. And so then, just to back up a minute, the basic development order is currently in administrative review, it's now called administrative review. But when I looked at some of these that we require, I feel like some of these don't need to be a QJ hearing. So if you have, on a minor commercial development order, you have installation, construction, or modification of fences. I just don't see how necessary it is to review that as a minor commercial development order. You have major residential development order, additions to a building or structure which do not increase the heated, ventilated, or air-conditioned area, but may or may not increase the floor pit of the building or structure, such as a garage under a stilt house or attached to a home. That's a major residential development order. To me, that's overkill. It doesn't need to be a QJ hearing. So I just went through with my knowledge and experience and some common sense and kind of whittled it into more concise categories. And actually 5,000 square feet is rather small. A lot of places are 10 or 12,000 square feet for that difference in the major and the minor.
And you say your experience in other places based on other land development codes that you've written and have experience with?
Yes.
Any other questions on that one point? All right, well, let's move on past that one.
So what is left in these new 3 categories? Does any of this come in front of P and Z before going to the council?
Anything that is a major development review will come before you. It's a quasi-judicial hearing, and we have that process outlined in Article 1.
Is that in this part of the packet that we're looking at now?
It's not, this is something we looked at early on. The quasi-judicial process and the legislative process are in Article 1. So you don't have it today, but we looked at it, I think it was in August,
So right now, we're
July.
just cleaning up the
Mhm.
minor developments.
The major, minor, the approval processes.
All of these timeframes for development processes are not unique to Mexico Beach. They're set by
Yeah,
statute, right?
the legislature adopted these last year.
Right, so that's not unique to us at all.
Correct.
So most of the development orders that come in really are minor. And so a lot of times I don't even see the development order until which time they've already run through the building department process. So how do I ensure that these timeframes are met if I'm not even,
They need to come in through Julie to
Okay.
receive the fees for the development order. And then someone like me looks at it for completeness and makes a completeness determination within whatever the time frame is. I feel like it's 5 days. And then the clock starts ticking again for the review and determinations of completeness, whether or not it meets the requirements of the code. And if we don't, if we don't respond within some of these timeframes, then your application fee starts getting whittled away. You have to return 10% after a certain time, you have to return 50% after a certain time. So now there's greater need to make sure we follow the timelines when something is submitted.
So you're gonna need a check and balance on when it comes in, maybe the different criteria, the timeframes, so that you can keep track of it.
We'll need to start tracking them.
Because again, your engineers have to look at this too,
Mhm.
because they've got to weigh in
Floodplain.
on the engineering aspects. And they need to know when their review is required. How quickly they need to give it to you.
Well, like we say, most of the stuff that comes in are just your simple home development orders, things of that sort, and the people who make the applications are so adept at it, it's very seldom incomplete, so it's really not an issue. It's anything a little bit more above abnormal type things,
Now, do you have a de minimis in here beyond the administrative development review?
I'm sorry, do I have a
A
what?
de minimis, have you paid the de minimis?
It's in the statutes, but I don't think I've reiterated it here.
Some jurisdictions have de minimis development that they say it doesn't require anybody to look at it. Some places have fences less than a certain height, outbuildings less than a certain square footage, stuff like that. But that's purely up to the jurisdiction, how they will handle it.
Okay, let me ask Laura a question to see if I understand what I'm reading. In page 4.6, 4.02.00, process for development approval. That's right after major development review. A major development approval process shall also include the quasi-judicial hearing approval process as included in sections blah blah of this code, which shall commence after the requirements of sections blah blah have occurred or been met. Approval process. The timeframes in this section are not applicable if a substantive change occurs during any part of the process or if the applicant agrees to an extension of review of time in writing agreed to by the city. For the purpose of this section, a substantive change is defined as an applicant-initiated change of 15% or more in the proposed density, intensity, or area of a parcel. Am I understanding this, that this is development approval for a major development process, and that a substantive change would come in front of P&Z and the council? Is that what I'm
So
reading?
this section 4.02.01 is for anything that is submitted to the city. So if somebody submits something for a minor and they have a substantive change, that's 15% more of the proposed density, then that means that the timelines are not going to be as written here. And this first paragraph under 4.02.01 is statutory language. They got heavy-handed with that development order issuance.
The section there on approval process is
Yes,
is legislative.
that is in Florida statutes.
So the 15% or more was set by the statute?
Yes.
Okay.
So we're following statute.
On some of this, yeah. Specifically, the timelines that we have now that we have to follow as we're reviewing and have to respond and completeness checks and approval timelines, yes, that's all statutory.
We should be consistent, okay. Any other questions?
Do we want it, on D, that's, those timeframes, should we mirror them to the timeframes you got over in 402, 02, 02, 03, and 04? Or is that just the review?
This is just the review. This is the final issuance on that, on the last 402, 02, 03, 04. We have to approve, deny, or approve with conditions within this time frame on this. This is just the review.
So should we change the word approval to review?
All development approvals shall be deemed complete or incomplete within the following timeframes. That's their completeness timelines. The approval timelines are in the other sections.
But
This says
your
approval.
use of the word approval in 1, 2, and 3, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Maybe
Well, all development approval processes.
just maybe say administrative development, colon, minor development, colon, and then major development, colon, and take out the word approval.
Okay, I see. I just reused the terminology that I used prior as the name of the process. So maybe I go, this review, that's what I called it.
So that will bring us past.
So I'm gonna say all development review processes shall be deemed to configure.
Okay.
Is that in D?
That is in D.
We're
Yeah.
replacing,
So all, part D,
Approval to
all
develop.
development review processes shall be deemed complete or incomplete within the following timeframes. Number 1, administrative development review. Number 2, minor development review. And number 3, major development review. So I'm striking approval.
got it. Okay. Any questions on 4.7 or beyond?
Would you carry that terminology throughout, like 40300 and 40400, where you use the term administrative development approval, should that be review? I didn't notice that when we first talked about
Yes.
Where would you suggest adding that in?
it. Well, it just, again, replacing the word approval with review
Okay.
throughout 402, 40300, 40400.
Replace the word approval with review.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that would be in the title in that first sentence too. And I didn't think about it at the time we talked about it, but what happens if Mel's not comfortable with a minor development? Is there
Well,
a
he's the-
mechanism for him to refer it to the city council? In other words, there's something that may be on the board, and he wants the council to weigh in.
I could add, if that's a concern, I could add at the end of section,
I just think there might need to be a
For-
CYA for Mel on here.
4.01.03. On page 4-6, we could add an E. Any review at the discretion of the city administrator. On page 4-6, part E, any review at the discretion of the city administrator.
And on page 414, at the very last thing, section 40600, the certificate of acceptance. Who did we say would do those?
The city.
So, the city, is that the building department, is that the administrator, who, is it? Who?
It's at the discretion of the city administrator.
Is that clear to you, Mel? Does that work?
Certainly. That doesn't mean I'm gonna do it by myself all alone.
No, you can assign someone.
Yeah, make sure that it was clear for you.
Right. Or we have a consultant to do that for us.
All right, I think that brings us to the end of 415, doesn't it?
Yes.
Okay. All right. 2/3.
So we're good with those changes?
Yes, with those changes, we agreed that you guys would go make together.
So the next article is Article 3, which is previously referred to as subdivision regulations, and now is being referred to as development standards, primarily because this article in its current state does not only reflect subdivision regulations, it has other issues in it, so development standards is a more appropriate title. And then, of course, we start with subdivision regulations, which the city currently does really not address much. So we have a lot of new language here. Again, there are statutory references, inclusions in here, but start with the purpose and intent and why we're here, why are we talking about subdivision regulations, how it applies, who has the responsibility for improvements, which are paid for, designed, installed, and paid for by the developer and or the property owner prior to the issuance of any building permits, improvements, blah, blah, blah. Minimum lot area requirements. We don't have them today, and we still aren't going to have them, but we do require that you have enough land to meet all of the requirements of the design standards, including setbacks, impervious surface. So if you have a small lot, you're probably not going to get a big house, kind of thing. We get more into lot dimension requirements, which we also currently don't really discuss. I put a provision in here to prevent flag lots, which is exactly what it sounds like. It sounds like, it looks like a small access point and then a big open lot, so that it only has a small amount of frontage. So including of the prohibition of those, and in no case shall a lot be created less than 20 feet. And the reason why it says 20 feet is because this year there was proposed legislation to prohibit a local government from requiring anything greater than 20 feet, so we're sticking to 20 feet. It did not pass, but it was there, which means it might come back. That we require all subdivision plats to conform with 177, which is the subdivision of land statute. Parcel splits and platted lots. This is kind of something that's been a hot button lately in Mexico Beach. So with that new policy that we adopted recently this year, we now have a discussion of how we're able to approve parcel splits that, that include 2 legally platted lots. So as you can think of, the parcel ID number is a taxing agency, is a taxing avenue. But there could be 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 lots in one parcel ID number. So if they are legally platted lots, this allows the person, the property owner, to go back to those lots that were platted, recorded with the official records from that one single parcel ID number at, with just an administrative approval. As long as the parcel split doesn't change the platted lot dimension and change the platted lot lines. It's really kind of existing, it's just taking it back and taxing them as separate lots. If there's the approval of a non-platted parcel split, then we have some criteria that we have to follow. We have to have a boundary survey, of course, because they have to do that anyway at the point they have it recorded. But we need to look at a boundary survey. Anything that creates a subdivision would have to fall under a subdivision plat. Parcel split cannot result in a newly created parcel line existing underneath a structure. We don't want anything to become non-conforming at the creation of the parcel splits. We still have the regulation that says parcel splits regarding unplatted lands designated as residential general or residential low density shall be no more than 10% smaller than the median size of all other parcels. And I added a qualifier here of a 1/4 mile radius, because right now it just says within the area. And how do you measure within the area? So now we're going to
Very
measure
helpful.
within a 1/4 mile radius.
That's good.
Let's see. If we have to go to hearing, then this is how we do it in the next sections. And then we say no parcel split within Mexico Beach shall be filed or recorded by the clerk of court or Bay County until it receives approval under these provisions. Then we talk about the plat and the replatting process, which is very statutory in 177. We have standards for our plats, which we don't currently have, and what we want to see when we accept them. So this kind of outlines we have to have a 24 by 36 sheet of paper. The scale has to be no smaller than 1 inch equals 100 feet. We need vicinity map to show the location of the subdivision. All of these things are required now when you submit a plat. Then we talk about the description and the notes that have to be included on the plat. And we get into adjoining property. They have to be identified on the plat with a book and name if that's applicable.
And one thing that I want to just bring out, Laura, is you and I talked about this over on B, I guess it'd be 309, 30009 B, and then it's paragraph at the end of that, where you're talking about.
Page 3-5, right?
3.6, B,
Yes.
3.6. B5, a note shall be added to the plat
Yeah,
pursuant
I'm
to.
talking about number 8.
Okay, plats that contain private rights of way.
Correct. Laura and I had the conversation, and I've had this problem before where the city would take what I call a backup easement on stormwater maintenance. And so I addressed that by adding a sentence there at the end of that particular paragraph number 8. Where it says, to the extent that the city of Mexico Beach performs any maintenance in such easements, the cost thereof will be split equally among the total number of lots, and shall become a lien on each lot. And the reason for that is so the city can get its money back.
Good.
Okay. And then, starting on page 3-9, we have the inspection and acceptance of required improvements. So we would send somebody out to take a look, probably require a stormwater engineer to go out and take a look to make sure everything was built as was approved. And if things are going wrong, the city administrator can have us, I'm catching whatever you have, Tim, can get a stop work order. And we talk about how to vacate a plat. It's a decision of the city council. Moving on to page 3-11, we talk about lot parcels and combinations. A request,
I had something come up in the last week where, somebody was concerned that if a city agreed to a lot combination, that it erased the existing easements, and it does not. It doesn't affect the private easement. So, I don't know that we need to say that, but I'll just tell you, I had another lawyer concerned that the city, another city had terminated his easement when the city allowed a lot combination.
it's a separate recording instrument.
Yeah, it's not done.
Just saying that lot combinations can't alter a legal recorded plat.
Or maybe add the word or easement in there.
That sounds good. If that's-
Plat or easement.
Yeah. I never would have thought about that until the other lawyer approached me.
Okay. And so, again, since we're talking more than subdivision regulations, we get into sidewalk requirements, minimum 3 feet. We require them on one side of the road if the roadway is a certain, the lot width is a certain measurement, and then on both sides of the road if the lot width is a larger,
That sounds like a really narrow sidewalk. Is that
3 feet.
Is that customary?
It's the old standard, the new standard is probably more like 5 feet.
It's the old sidewalk.
Our current sidewalk is 5, I believe.
I'm just wondering if we're sort of setting
Five and
policy here
six.
for the future. Who's gonna
3 feet's all
use and
good.
apply a 3-foot sidewalk?
Yeah, it's pretty narrow.
And it's narrow.
I mean, it's a
I know it's
policy issue if y'all want to recommend something more.
Sounds like it's time to move forward. 5 foot is not wide. I walk a lot. People say, beep, beep, move over if they're coming behind me on a bike or my dog. I can't imagine passing someone on a 3-foot sidewalk. It's a collision.
Do you want 5 in there?
I think so.
I would say 5.
Okay. We talk about the need for crosswalks if there's a certain population generation as a result of a subdivision or development. Perimeter sidewalks when adjacent to a roadway shall be included in the plans for all subdivisions on parcels located on Highway 98, 15th Street, and 7th Street. And then the design and composition of the sidewalk.
Well, you have
We'll
that
also-
minimum, you have
we
that
also-
width in that F as well.
Talk about 5 feet. Okay. Then we move into the installation of utilities, electricity, potable water, sanitary sewer, which I would actually call wastewater, because that's what we called it before. Lighting and fire hydrants. We are saying that we want them to be underground with easements. We want to screen any utility apparatus placed above ground. It could be screened with vegetation, it doesn't have to be a,
Fence.
yeah. And then, when a developer installs or causes the installation of water, sewer, or electrical power, we're gonna call it wastewater again. I'm gonna do a word search for wastewater. Telephone or cable, blah, blah, blah. The developer shall transfer to such utility the entity the necessary ownership easement rights to enable the utility or entity to operate and maintain such facilities. And then we get into the roadway systems and the classifications, arterial, collector, and local. A lot of this is FDOT language. They have a manual that talks about the functional classifications of roadways. And so I went to that source to correct some of what we currently have. And you'll see that reflected in here. Street design standards on page 3-17 in section 3.05.04. We have general standards, just talking about how we're going to lay them out, and private roadways, which can be allowed, that will remain under common ownership as long as they are designed and constructed pursuant to the standards required by this code, which we refer to FDOT construction standards, just FYI. We require connectivity, interconnected roadways. Just general design standards here. Require curbs. When we require shoulders, they'll be at least 4 feet in width. We're going to limit the length of a cul-de-sac to 800 feet. And any stub outs. Local roadway and collector stub streets may be permitted only within subdivisions or of a phased development or for which a proposed street or in its entirety has received a final site plan approval. So that we would require them to construct that connectivity point.
We just define what a stub street is.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you have a vacant lot left next door that you know will someday be developed somehow, or maybe has already submitted a planned development, the stub will be created so that it will eventually connect.
I get it.
Yeah. And then we talk about the clear visibility triangle, which is current language in our code today. The next section is building numbers. They have to provide a 4-inch number. And then we talk about RV parks. And I just wanted you to be aware there's a highlighted number on page 3-24. Currently the RV park minimum is 8 acres. I'm proposing to change that to 5 because the current RV park we have right now is 5.47 acres.
And another one that has 16 acres.
The one on 98 is less than 8.
And Rustic Sands on 15th Street is actually 19 acres.
What's the one on 386?
Over on the Gulf County side.
Yeah,
That's in Gulf
yeah,
County.
it's Gulf County on that side of the road. Never mind.
Yeah,
But it's a little,
it's little though, isn't it?
yep.
Mhm.
Okay, 5 acres makes sense.
We changed that because we had it at 8 acres instead of 5, because there was a huge argument, if you will remember, Islander RV Park next to Summer House, behind Summer House, right there across from Parker Park, they argued about putting an RV park back in there. And that's not anywhere near 5 acres, I would think.
Oh, now I remember the
Yeah.
place you're talking about. That
Yeah,
that little-
across-
It was an island.
Yeah, it's connected on the backside, you can get to it from 27th Street.
Beside Summer House.
Yeah, and there was a big to-do, they wanted to put that back in there,
Okay.
and we said no. So,
That's It wouldn't be 5 acres.
No, I don't think so, but they made it 8 just to cover
Okay.
themselves.
So then we move on to junkyards.
Before you get to junkyards, I had a question I didn't think of when you might talk. Under 30703, allowable uses in an RV park, park trailers, park models. Are those, when you use the term trailer, you're talking about an actual mobile home? Or is
I
that?
would have to look up the definition by Florida law.
No, those little.
Where are
park-
you right now?
He's on page 3-23.
23. Yeah, my ultimate question is, do you have in here any prohibition against mobile homes being in an RV park?
I don't think a mobile home is a park trailer. I think those are two different
No, they're
things.
two different
Right.
things.
But I will tell you that I've had a number of people that wanted to put mobile homes in RVs together. The question is that something you all want, to allow both of them to go in the same?
Well, they can't be there more than 180 days. So they have to be able to.
Well, but if we don't prohibit them,
So park models,
Okay, when you
it's separated in the parentheses there, those are the
go,
small
they look like.
permanent
little
campers
cabins.
that you can come and rent as a vacation rental. right?
Tennessee Chuck lived in one, that was a park model over in Rustic Sands. They're the little things that look like little
Like a
cabins,
tiny
Yeah.
home.
but they're on wheels actually,
Mhm.
and you can trailer them in, but they've always been permanent over here.
And they're permanent in many RV
In many
parks.
places, yes,
Presnell's has park models.
yes, yes. So,
so my question is, are you okay with having mobile homes in an RV park, or do you want them separated?
I think a mobile home is different than a park model. By
I'm
Florida,
telling you, I have
we
I
have,
have
There-
a number of people
I
that
think you
have
want them
applied for
separated.
both.
I
I think you want them separated.
we
I
have.
don't, I think that the Florida statutes defines mobile homes pretty specifically as a trailered, tagged by the Department of Motor Vehicles vehicle
I'm not stuck on that now, Laura.
that,
The B is saying park trailers and
No,
park
no,
models.
no, I'm just asking from a conceptual standpoint, do you want to allow mobile homes in an RV park? Because I can tell you developers are wanting to do that depending upon how they're gonna make money.
well,
I
they
was-
have to be a unit that was fabricated before 1976 to be a mobile home.
Or, well, manufactured home.
Manufactured home is different.
But
Uh,
I'm talking about the ones after 1976.
Okay.
Can you put
They
them
can't
in-
be-
The ones
they
you can buy
can't-
today.
So the manufactured home has to be affixed to the ground, and they can't be there more than 180 days.
Yeah, we just want
But-
recreational vehicles.
Yeah, I'm blanking on the term for the ones after 76. My question is, do you want trailers in an RV
I
park?
think no.
No, no.
But park models, I think they're
Park
already
models
are
are
there, they're different.
I would submit to you, you
Yes.
can't put what you're referring to in every park.
Well, I
Why?
can tell you, I've had a number of applicants that want to put both. And that's what I'm saying, policy-wise, whether you want them or not.
No.
Okay,
We'd win. We have it.
Rustic Sands, whatever name it goes by now, Rustic Sands has had for,
They got all kinds of
Decades.
stuff
they have had an entire community of 20, 22, what we know as mobile
there. That's
homes.
right, they're in the back.
In the back, it has been an entire community. Then there was half a dozen of the park models, the little cabins in front of those, where people lived permanently. We've always allowed that. Some years back, when Tom Bailey was mayor, he wanted to get rid of all of the mobile homes. But that was a community, an established community, and those people had no place to go, and they owned their mobile homes, they had landowners. So the new owners, I have heard, and I have not confirmed this, are going to get rid of the mobile homes and the park models and make it just an RV park. But we have had,
How are they gonna get rid of them if people had no place to go prior?
I have no clue. This
So
is
what
just,
Tom could,
this is just, the city, he wanted the city to do it, and he was not able to because RV parks are allowed to have mobile homes. It's combined on the state level. I don't remember the particulars at that time. This was Tom Bailey back in whenever. So my point is, we have always had mobile homes and park models in our big RV park. I do not know how it's going to be handled now with the new owner, but that will give you some context on this in the future.
but we're setting policy on new development and what we want to allow and be clear and not allow.
So if someone, say on 15th Street, decided to open another RV park,
RVs.
then you're saying just RVs, no park models and no mobile
I thought we were
homes.
saying RVs and park models, but no mobile homes.
No mobile
Okay.
homes.
Them,
Okay.
them little ones,
Yeah.
them little mini.
Those are tantamount to an RV. A mobile
Yeah.
home is tantamount to a
Yeah.
So
stick-built one.
in other words, in the future, if someone opens a new RV park here, they can have those two RVs and park models, but they have to be removed after 6 months, 180 days. So
Yes.
there can be no permanent,
So I don't know about
Living there.
the policy on the park models and why you would remove them at 6 months. I'm not an RV park expert, but I know a lot about,
I think the intent is so that somebody doesn't live there.
Live there.
That's,
that, and that
well,
was
I
my
don't think
question.
that I don't think they're used that way, and again, I don't know, but they have them at Presnell's, and they are essentially vacation rentals, rather than renting a home or a condo or a townhouse. You can go and do a short stay in a permanent RV that sits there that you don't own.
Yeah, it's like 30 foot long or something.
But at, at whatever it is, $169 a night, it is not, a person doesn't go and live there.
But there is a definition of actually park model RV though, which is not what you're saying. Those are, what you're saying are more like just mobile tiny homes.
Yeah.
There is a type of RV that is designated as a park model, which is fully trailable. It just tends to be larger and for longer periods of time. So I'm not sure what the definition here is exactly, because there's really a difference between a true RV park model and a tiny home like Presnell's got. Those are different things.
What if El Governor decided on some of their lots, they wanted to put a permanent little thing?
Which they've done.
Let's call it a park model, and rent them out to you, me, or Laura that want to go there and stay.
Then it's not an RV park.
Well, it's an RV park right now. It's El Governor RV Park. Are they allowed to go put in a few of these things or not? And I think we're setting policy for the next developer that comes to create one of these popular RVs.
Well, then maybe they need to consider what they're labeling their campground. Maybe it's not an RV park. Maybe if there's I'm not saying there's no way to do this. I'm just saying if we're trying to conform to the code and they want to put down some permanent park trailers, then we can classify it as a campground and it can be permanent and not as an RV park.
The term I was looking for was modular home.
Modular homes.
A modular home is essentially after 76. So
Mhm.
the question is, when I said mobile homes, mobile or modular homes, you're saying the policy would be not to allow those in an RV park.
you're not allowed to have them under this language.
Unless you specifically prohibit them.
No, these are the things that are allowed. That's it. I mean, we can't list every single thing we want to prohibit. So we list the things that we want to allow.
Maybe somewhere there's a better definition by RV organizations, exactly what an RV is.
There's a Florida statutory definition of what an RV is. Yep.
That's what you need to go by.
We do,
I mean, that's,
yeah. Yep.
that's exactly what you need to go by.
Because I did have the honor of living in rustic Sanford about 2 years while I was building my house. Now, whenever it got cheap at El Governor, we moved over there. But
So recreational vehicle in our appendix, as defined by section 320.01 Florida statute, a recreational vehicle type unit primarily designed as a temporary living quarters for recreational camping or travel use, which either has its own motor power or is mounted on or drawn by another vehicle. This definition includes vehicles referred to as travel trailers, camping trailers, truck campers, motorhomes, private motor coaches, van conversions, park trailers, and fifth wheel trailers.
That covers it.
And I just heard you say park trailers. That's
Yeah, that
almost
covers it.
last thing, and that's the one that we were discussing. Park trailers, parentheses, park models.
So do we even have to have a V if they're defined as a recreational vehicle?
I said, so this definition includes vehicles referred to as travel trailers, camping trailers, truck campers, motorhomes, private motor coaches, van conversions, park trailers, and fifth wheel.
So if it's part of the definition,
We just remove B altogether.
well, but B also contains the 180 day.
At a time, yeah.
So do you apply the 180 day in general terms to RVs
So we could combine A
and B?
and B and just start,
With recreational vehicles as defined by Florida law.
yes, I would do that.
It covers it.
Not to exceed, well, I mean, the short-term rental language talks about the 180 days too, but not to exceed 180 days, consecutive days.
Yeah, just change park model in the second sentence to recreational vehicle as well.
now this only applies to something new. This does not apply retroactively to it.
Right. This is new stuff coming forward.
So going forward, there will be no permanent community in an RV park. Okay.
Well, the simple part about having moved every 180 days is, makes it.
No, I'm
Because
just making sure
Right.
that we understand that this is what we're advocating, that instead of having what we have had, which is a permanent community back there, that will no longer be allowed.
There's a number of RV parks I've been in, you can't stay 2 weeks in one spot.
Right.
You literally, if you're there for a month, you gotta move spots.
Okay. Carry us forward, Laura.
Sure.
I'm sure.
So, on page 3-26, there's a reference to junkyards in 3.08.00. Currently, the regulation states they are not allowed inside of Mexico Beach, but this is allowing them with restrictions to locations. So they can be in the general commercial zoning districts, but they can't front on Highway 98 or 15th Street. So if they have access to those, they can't front it, but they could get through it from a roadway or an easement or something. They have to be screened. and they can't create a nuisance.
And is this something that is being influenced by statute? If junkyards haven't been allowed, why are we
Why-
trying to allow them even with regulations?
So Tim and I had this discussion, and there's been many discussions I've had with attorneys that have the opinion that you can't prohibit
Totally prohibited.
a
but you
specific
can
use from your
limit what they
jurisdiction. You can regulate location, size, and whatever, but you can't say, we're not gonna allow you to come into our city.
Why not?
You have to give them someplace to go.
Unincorporated areas.
Well, but you're not unincorporated, so you have to, essentially, defining it the way that it's defined, I'm not sure that they'd be able to realistically.
Well, let's go through that then. Take us through the stringent definitions that you've created here.
So it applies to junkyards, motor vehicle graveyards, and where any kind of junk can be kept, accumulated, or maintained. So the restriction to the location is it has to be in general commercial,
Good.
and it cannot front Highway 98 or 15th Street. So if you are driving down Highway 98 or 5th Street, you could not see it from the roadway. It can't front it. It has to be back off, and you would have to have some sort of access to get to it.
I think it's very unlikely that someone would use their commercial property.
Correct.
in Mexico Beach.
Well, and
What
there's
if
not
it's
much general
residential?
commercial that's
Can't be in
not.
residential.
Can't be, it says it has to be limited to
General commercial.
general commercial.
Then it has to be screened from view from the right of way. So let's say it's got 20 feet of access. We still have to screen it so we don't see it. And from any future land use designation that allows or contains residential uses, which is pretty much the one that we have. No junkyard shall create a nuisance regarding noise, smoke, glare, aroma, or an environment that attracts pests or rodents. So they have to be clean.
Was there a public comment? about
There
that?
is.
If you'd please come forward.
I will.
Thank you.
John Harold, 43 First Street, or some of y'all know as attorney will tell you the last house in Bay County.
Thank you.
I'm putting it on the garbage can. Does this not directly conflict with our comprehensive plan about a beach community? To me, beach community does not say junkyard or automobile graveyard. It goes completely against what is in our comprehensive plan. My understanding is that we're not supposed to make any ordinances that conflict with that comprehensive plan. That's what I want to say.
Okay.
Thank you for your consideration.
So you guys feel that because of legal issues, you highly recommend putting this in here?
Well, and the way that it's written and the limitation of where general commercial is, I'm not sure they'd be able to realistically go anywhere, in theory.
Can you answer his question, which is a legitimate question? It sounds like to me that he's spot on. It does go against the comp plan. How do you explain it?
But some might differ with you on the definition of a beach community. They might be into junk in a beach community.
Well, Panama City Beach is a beach community. Maybe they have one of these.
I'm just concerned that if you do a blanket prohibition, that somebody might be able to challenge you on that. That's why when the beach was presented by the adult entertainment areas, they didn't prohibit them totally, but they limited them in where they could be located.
Yeah.
Could be so far, so close to a school or a church or a park.
Can't be on a tourist corridor.
Yeah, and it can't be on the tourist corridor. Essentially, there are very few spots that it can be on.
And also the marijuana dispensaries, we have that issue.
Well, that's a
as well.
different issue. That's a statute requires that you allow marijuana dispensary in any location where the,
Or pharmacy can go.
where a pharmacy can be located. So you're kind of stuck there. I think it's prudent to very narrowly limit where it can go.
So you think this is narrow enough?
Well, yeah, that's our proposal, but if you all want to try to limit it any further, then certainly it's up to y'all. I'm not sure how you do it.
Yeah, I'm gonna follow your recommendation. Sounds like it's,
The next,
May I offer a suggestion?
sure.
What about leakage into our canals from old junk cars or batteries or gas tanks? Can we put something in there to really limit it, that they have to put some kind of,
Environmental protection, is that what?
thank you, good word. I mean, make it as stringent as possible, and when someone sees that, no, we don't want to go to Mexico Beach, which is fine with me. I don't want them to come here. I didn't move here to have a junkyard down the street. I didn't pay what I paid, and now what people are paying now.
Mr. Attorney, is that possible that you
we can add
tighten it
part,
up for environmental
can,
protection is important, so. I
we'll
think it's a
add
good
a
issue.
part, we'll add a part D, that they must be located at least 100 feet from the waterway.
You could also add an impermeable, you probably have the impermeable barrier, right?
Yeah, I think it depends on the type of junkyard there too.
They all leak something. They always will leak something out.
We can look at the environmental
Okay.
side.
All right, well, if you'll do that,
Thank
I'll
you.
do that. Thank
From
you.
the public, thank you.
So the next section is 3.09.00 on page 3-27, mobile home parks and mobile homes. This is a similar section to the RV parks and their standards. This is basically when you have multiple units on one parcel rather than a subdivision, a manufacturing park or a mobile home park subdivision, you have individual lots. This is where you would have one major lot and everybody has a pad, so to speak, like an RV park. So these are the standards for that kind of development. So you're offering lots or spaces for rent, and the placement of the home is then regulated by this section.
And no RVs in the mobile home park.
Say that again?
Would we want to limit no RVs in the mobile home park? You have, in the RV parks, you have
Yes.
allowable uses, but
Yep.
there's not a similar one here.
Well, I don't think we actually have it, but a lot of jurisdictions will not allow you to live in an RV. In fact, I don't think we need to say it because the Florida Building Code prevents you from living in an RV.
Living in an RV, okay, I'm all right with that.
So this section is about mobile home parks, but I thought we didn't allow mobile homes going forward anyway. Is it, we do,
I didn't think you could put a manufactured home in Mexico Beach.
well, manufactured,
And I don't mean modular, I mean something built to HUD standards versus building code. I know that we do modular houses here.
Yes, and manufactured, which is now another preemption by.
but this whole
the
section is
legislature.
about mobile
That's defined
homes and
under
mobile
the
home
Code of
parks.
Federal Regulations, manufactured housing.
Say that again, Jack?
This whole section is about mobile homes and mobile home parks. As if
Yes.
someone was going to come in here and build a new development for the purpose of being occupied by mobile homes as a mobile
So,
home park.
yes, I will tell you that because of the terminology, I think everybody on the planet is confused between a mobile home and a manufactured home and a modular home. Technically, a mobile home is permitted like a vehicle. You get your motor vehicle tag for a mobile home. And then a manufactured and a modular home is built to HUD standards and has to get a building permit. So the terminology of a mobile home has just carried over through the years as part of the culture of describing these off-premise constructed homes, bringing them on the premise. But because the statute still refers to how the Department of Health permits mobile home parks, it could be that it's not a mobile home that's going in there, it could be a manufactured home that's going in there. It's just it's just how we're going to regulate how those are placed inside of this one parcel.
Okay, so we're talking about on 15th Street, just behind, or just to the side, to this side of La Siesta, is the old established, what we call a mobile home park. Is that what y'all are talking about? It's privately owned at this point. The tenants own it. But it's just like the mobile home community that was in Rustic Sands, except it's on the south side of 15th Street. And it's been there since before, way before I came. Is that,
I wish someone cleared it for me, but it might be a building department question, but I thought you could bring in a modular dwelling and place it on a foundation. And I believe that happened a lot after Hurricane Michael.
yes.
It came in on wheels, it was placed on a foundation, and now people live in them or rent them or do whatever they do with them.
Right, it has to meet the standards of the Florida building.
That's right.
Yes.
You have to meet code.
And so that was allowed after Michael, I'm assuming it's allowed now, and we want to make sure that we don't do anything here to disallow that. I'm also wondering, can you go buy one in Panama City and roll it onto your dirt and level it up by the ton, and is that allowed in Mexico Beach? And I think the answer is
If
no.
it's on a chassis, it is a mobile, it is permitted as a vehicle.
That hasn't been allowed for a while.
Right, so in this section, we're not changing anything by describing mobile homes and mobile home parks.
Or is
Yeah,
that true?
so the statute, it defines a mobile home park is a piece of land in which lots or spaces are offered for rent or lease for the placement of mobile homes, and in which the primary use of the park is residential. So the mobile home is the park is regulated, just like the RV park is regulated by the state, the mobile home park is regulated by the Florida Department of Health. So, we can add zoning regulations to it, but they fundamentally issue the permit for the park, for septic and all the other stuff to make sure it's safe, it's healthy. If we would like to call this a manufactured home park, we could do that. If that helps you.
I think you're better doing that because of the type of construction.
Yeah, well, it sounds like we're backing up, if not by calling it a mobile home park, if we don't allow what we all agree are mobile homes.
Well, Laura, clear something up for me, because I've just been sitting here, because I've been told that it is not a manufactured home or a mobile home if it's built, the Florida building code and it's placed on a foundation, that is a modular home. And so are we talking about, so if it's on a chassis,
A manufactured home can be secured to the ground also.
right, but it usually has a frame and a chassis underneath it,
They retain the chassis underneath it.
yes.
So we can look at the Florida statutory definitions of manufactured home, but I don't believe it has the definition of having a chassis on it.
Well, I've written some language in another LDR that it's defined in 24 CFR Part 3280. That's where the definition of a manufactured home is, and maybe we can look at that.
Okay, manufactured home, a home fabricated on or after June 15th, 1976 in an off-site manufacturing facility for installation or assembly at the building site, with each section bearing a seal certified that is built in compliance with the Federal Manufacturing Home Construction and Safety Standard Act. Manufactured homes are built to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Standards, HUD standards. A modular building, because it could be a home or a commercial structure, a building which is designed, built, and inspected to the Florida Building Code in a factory-like setting, and the finished product is transported to the site for installation. A modular building must be installed on a permanent foundation that is designed and built specifically for the structure by a contractor licensed by the Department of Business and Professional Regulation.
Sure.
So we're talking about HUD standard
Mhm.
Or
manufactured.
Florida Building Code standards.
Yes.
They build them and bring them out, they set them on something.
They usually
They
use
don't
the
roll them out.
big cranes to
Right,
lift it
yeah,
off the flatbed and put it on the foundation, whereas I live in a manufactured home, an old-fashioned mobile home.
Yeah.
And mine was brought in on a truck, actually, on a flatbed truck and shifted off.
And I'll tell you, the reason why it can be so confusing is because even in the statutes, they define the home one way in one section and a different way in another section. And in one section, they do use the July 15th, 1976 date, and in the other section, they don't. They just say it's.
I guess my question is somebody that has just a regular residential lot gonna say, well, why can't I put a manufactured house on my lot if you're allowing it
You can.
in this community?
You have to treat them like a stick-built home.
Like what?
A stick-built home.
Although we have a city ordinance that prohibits them,
Manufactured homes.
yes, we've had it for a while.
So I just sent an article to Mel within the last couple of weeks how the legislature passed this year that you're not gonna be able to do that after January 1st. They have to be treated like a stick-built home.
Really?
Yeah, they've set them, you know, over there on Circle Drive, Jack's, they pick it up with a crane and set it.
And that's
Then it's modular, yeah.
But they're saying
It's affixed to
manufactured.
the ground. Do you have access to your email, Mel?
The reason I'm asking, under the years of Al Cathy, the council under him passed an ordinance that prohibited any more manufactured / mobile homes, old-fashioned mobile homes, to come into the city.
I think that it said if it was built under the HUD,
If it's a HUD, it could not come
It
into the
could.
city
If
anymore.
it was built
And you're
before a building
saying
code, it
that
could.
after January the 1st of this year,
27.
27,
So,
then the city
You have
has
treat
to
them.
allow them?
has to permit them like a stick built.
Regular old, what we're
Even
calling
though they're
trailer.
HUD
Yeah.
approved?
But one of the things the state's done is to provide a mechanism to actually remove the chassis and affix a mobile home, what we're calling a mobile home, to the land permanently so that it no longer has a certificate of title. So they've now provided that mechanism.
you have to put a permanent foundation underneath.
But so, in this code though, people are still renting the ground.
Yes.
Am I right?
Yes, that's
But
right.
then we're kind of saying that they've got to put a permanent house on the ground they're renting. I mean, it's got to be a mobile home if they're
Not in
renting.
a park. This is for the rental of the land, which
Right.
you're modular.
But it's got to be a mobile home because
Yeah, you got-
they're renting the land. It's got to be something that
It's
has
not
wheels
fixed.
affixed to it
You make a point.
That
because
was
they're
what I was
renting
getting at, is that
they're renting the ground.
If you could put this thing with the chassis and wheels on it into the
I've
park.
never heard of anybody building a
No.
house on something that they're renting.
No.
Well, you couldn't.
No.
Because you can roll it off.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to be able to roll it off.
So you couldn't do what the state has now talked about in a mobile home park, but I see it in, particularly in the unincorporated area of Bay County.
Sure.
People are out there taking the chassis off mobile homes and affixing them, and you get a different legal treatment when you do that.
So, okay, so I live in an old-fashioned mobile home. If I wanted to replace my mobile home, come January of next year, I could put another mobile home if I put it in some way affixed to the ground. Is that what you're saying?
No.
I'm confused.
What I'm saying is the state has provided a mechanism to remove the chassis and affix the mobile home to the ground and treat it as though it's part of the real estate.
That's what I just said.
But you don't have to replace yours by removing the chassis. You could bring in another mobile home.
That was her point.
That's
If she
what I
wants to
said.
bring in a brand new model,
Right.
2027,
Take the chassis off, you can just pull it right in, and if it's not increasing in size and typically increasing the demand on water and sewer, that you probably wouldn't have any problem. But if you were coming into the city fresh and you wanted to bring a mobile home in, notwithstanding the ordinance, and I'll have to go back and look at it carefully, but the law is, after January 1 of 2027, you gotta basically treat the development, i.e. the new mobile home, as the stick figure.
Okay. Thank you.
You gotta love the legislature, they're doing all kinds of things to mess with you.
Yeah, that
Starting-
one really just messed with me.
Starting January 1st, 2027, local governments will be required to allow modular and manufactured homes by right in any zoning district where single-family detached homes are allowed. Local governments retain authority to apply uniform architectural design compatibility standards, but may not treat factory-built homes more restrictively than any site-built homes. Any conflicting local regulations are void and unenforceable. Localities will now need to review and amend their zoning codes by 2027.
Okay.
But still, that doesn't apply to this because you
No.
still have to have something on wheels for 309 to work.
For a mobile home.
Yeah, and we don't want mobile homes, so why is, I don't even think 309 should be in there,
that's what started.
right?
I'm with you.
Yeah,
So you could have a manufactured home park and.
and rent the, and then you
And
rent the
own
ground,
the home.
own your own home and rent.
You can't though, because it,
That-
Yes, you
I don't-
can.
when you
My,
attach it to the
my
land.
mother's sister lives in one.
I know, but if you put it on a permanent foundation, I do know this, as soon as you attach something to the permanent foundation, it's attached to the property.
Yes.
And so the
She
underlying
owns the
property,
home and she pays rent for the spot.
on a permanent foundation,
Yes.
so the
It's like,
property owner.
it's like a
owns it.
cottage development where you don't own the land, you own the home. It's what they use to help control affordability in housing.
So what recourse would the property owner have if she just quit paying rent, if she technically owns the house?
I guess they could put a lien on her house.
I guess, it's weird, it's odd.
It's a big thing, Myrtle
That's odd.
Beach, they do that.
Yeah.
So it sounds like we don't want to leave mobile homes in mobile home parks. The discussion is, do we strike this
I
entire
would-
section? That's where I would go.
So, since the state regulates mobile home parks, Tim, is that something we can prohibit?
Let me take a look at that before I say yes or no.
Okay, all right, so we're gonna dig more into 309.
Because the state's weighed in and
Yeah.
Say no.
voided some of the regulations, I just need to look and see if I can find any.
Okay, so we'll come back with section 309.
Okay, let's move on to
Stormwater management is pretty cut and dry. It's, I did add some language about low impact design, which is a new method, a way to control stormwater through not just a stormwater pond, but through micro management ways such as swales and possibly green roofs and other ways to help reduce stormwater runoff. This is something that's kind of catching on in other parts of the state.
When you say the exemptions are the development of a single-family home in an approved plan subdivision, why exempt single-family homes? Because since the hurricane, there has,
Lisa, direct me where you are.
oh, I'm sorry, page 3-29 at the very bottom, under stormwater management, 329.
Got it.
Single-family homes have come in and they have filled in, they've raised the level of the land to rebuild their homes, and they have flooded the people around them because they didn't have to rebuild their homes. And there's no control over stormwater. I know that I'm one who now has 50% of my yard flooded in a major rain because the guy behind me raised the land a foot and has such a steeply slanted roof that it sluices off and runs right under his fence and completely covers my backyard. So why would you exempt a single-family home from stormwater management?
So I have a couple answers. First of all, the assumption is when you approve a plat, you're approving the stormwater management system that goes along with that plat. So it should have been accounted for at the platting process. Understanding that Mexico Beach was platted in the 1956, 7, there probably was no stormwater plan submitted back in those days to approve what's now your description of what's happening. And I feel for you because it's happening in my yard too. I'm in a bowl now because the people around me went up after the storm. Walton County is on the other side of the extreme where they require every single home that's being developed at the building permit stage to show their stormwater retention on their own property before they get the building permit. So every single family home is being reviewed by the planning/engineering department to make sure that the stormwater is retained on that individual lot and is not expelling onto neighbors.
Now, these are existing homes as well, or
No,
just
this is
new construction?
New construction.
Okay.
That's the way it is a commercial property. You have to
It is, but the
retain-
assumption is the commercial is a much larger footprint, but it should be the law. I agree that we at least could have a law that says you cannot allow your stormwater to go off your property.
So, why should you include single-family homes in exemptions if they should at least be a deep swale between the properties to catch the stormwater?
Like I said, the assumption was that in a platted subdivision that was caught at the plat, that just like the one on 15th Street where he was requesting a subdivision plat, he had designed his stormwater to be captured within his own stormwater pond and not to leave the site. But a simple solution would just be to state that the development of a single-family home cannot allow the stormwater to expel off the property.
I would like to see that in there because
I like it in theory, it makes a lot of sense. I'm wondering,
Somebody's gonna have to check it.
how does the building department make this happen and then enforce
Yeah,
this?
you'd have to get stormwater review on it.
well, still, Jack, the fact that we have so many properties in single-family areas that are flooded because there is a lack of this.
I'm for it. What I'm asking if Mel could shed some insight on, so now Greg or Willie does what differently?
They're supposed to be in the development plans for single-family, if I'm not mistaken, a required swale, which is just ignored. So it's more of an
So the
enforcement
other
issue.
solution, and I don't know why it's not common around here, it just baffles me, is to have a home either built on pilings or on a stem wall, so they're not filling in the entire lot, having the water drain off their lot. They're on a stem wall, so the water's still retained, and their house is still not gonna flood because they're up enough.
Well, you could still do both. I mean, you could build on a stem wall, but then raise the foundation and taper it off, and then it still sends the water.
To somebody else.
It would have to be on your drawings. They just submit contours to your property.
So I'm on a
Okay.
stem wall, my house is on a stem wall, I didn't put a fill on my property.
Yeah, my house.
So
is-
my water doesn't run off onto anybody else's.
Our plan did require swale, and we do have that to retain it
Okay.
in ours, so more than likely, it was just not done correctly on your neighbors. That's probably the bottom line, it just wasn't,
I
because
know,
we-
I know that's the truth.
yeah, we had to do it, our neighbors had to build a whole mound along the side of their house. So it is.
So
it
it's
is-
all-
So
Already
the
in
policy that we're
Yeah,
writing.
yeah, it's just not being
enforced.
enforced like it probably should be. Now, we did it, we did it correctly on ours, but
So,
Willie did make, what is their name? One of our neighbors, I can't remember the name for it. They did have to put up a barrier. Willie did, fail on that, and they had to put a barrier up.
Yeah, that's, I mean, in building, that's usually the rule of thumb. You don't shed water off your property on somebody else.
so what we're doing here is not changing that. We're not relinquishing that. Just wanna
Well,
check.
we're not really addressing what Lisa's concern is, as far as I'm aware, but maybe if, stormwater engineer could take a look at this section to see if they agree, because I am not a stormwater engineer.
What she's really saying is to require a stormwater plan for single-family residences.
But
But
But it sounds like
they
you
do.
Needs to happen.
Our,
But the language in here.
oh, and
In the new version.
who's requiring it? Who is making you do a stormwater?
It's in the LDR already, isn't it?
it
Really?
was in the, I just know that when I had the engineering done, it required a swale around the entire perimeter of the house to make sure that the water stayed on my.
But I'm just wondering if that was because that particular engineer felt like that was the right thing to do.
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that.
But you said the building department came back and required someone.
Well, mine was fine,
Yeah,
but
but
for
in
the
other
neighbor's
situations-
house, but Willie did require them to build a buffer.
And that's the
Probably
building
on your
department.
drawings, your landscape.
Yeah,
drawings.
yeah, it was on the landscape drawings.
Yeah.
So that's the building department.
But is that in the building code that you can't?
I don't, I'm not in that film, I
The
know you're not in
building
the
code
building
just
code.
addresses the building.
Yeah.
Well,
So do we want
We need
anyone
to
else
ask
to look at
Billy
this part?
What he was referencing.
We need to look at that.
Okay, let's make that note.
And, you know, Bill, I might need Elizabeth's help with that. That is not my follow.
ironically, I get more water from my neighbor than I give him.
I wish I could give my neighbor his back.
Remove some dirt.
As dry as it's been, I'll take all that I can get.
I don't have any additional questions for the remaining sections. Does anyone else?
I had some questions, but if you want to, in the interest of time, I'll hold them until, there's just a couple of things that came up that
Can you cover them pretty quickly?
yeah, I'll try. Okay, go back in this to page 3.3.
Wow.
Well, I didn't know we were taking questions, we were gonna discuss things as she was going over it, so I didn't say that. Under par 30006, parcel splits of platted lots, down to C. No, D, I'm sorry. The applicant must demonstrate that the platted lots were legally recorded in the official records of Bay County. I was curious, using what criteria, Bay County still occasionally, using what criteria, either the Bay County records or the original, very old plat maps, when you say must demonstrate that the platted lots were legally recorded in the official records, because sometimes we have people asking, are the original maps the ones we're looking at?
The plats are recorded in plat book.
In
page
Bay-
something,
so they're using
in
the
the official
original.
records of Bay County.
Okay, okay. And then on the next page, 3.4, number H, no parcel split within Mexico Beach shall be filed or recorded by the clerk of the court or Bay County until it receives approval under the applicable provisions of this article. My question is, what happens if this does happen? Because we do see it still from time to time. Somebody goes and manages to get a split recorded in Bay County without having permission from the city, what happens then?
Then they'd be in violation of the code. I had to write the property appraiser a letter and advise them of an error in a lot split about 2 years ago. So it can be done. You can, once it's discovered, I mean, obviously you have to discover it,
Yeah,
but they'd be looking to do a lot split for probably development. So then they come into the city and say, hey, I've got parcel A over here that I want to build a house on. And the Nell and the folks at the city would say, well, wait a minute,
okay,
how'd you get parcel A?
Well, in short order, they've been a lot better than they used to be about getting
Yeah, they are.
approval from the local government.
Okay.
Okay, one more. This was actually, this is in the deleted section on page 29, where it was talking about lot combinations, and the equivalent is page 311 in the new thing, lot parcel combinations. And this was talking about lot combinations, and the old version says, accessory structures may not be installed on a parcel that does not have a principal structure until a lot combination has been approved that results in a principal structure being on the combined lot. City council approval is required to reverse a lot combination and shall be pursuant to the same procedures and notices required for a lot split except as provided above regarding a lot split that involves a parcel consisting of 2 lots as shown on the validly recorded plat being split back to the originally platted lots without any change to their boundaries. That's a whole mess. My question is, the accessory structures may not be installed on a parcel that doesn't have a principal structure on it until a lot combination has been approved that results in a principal structure being on the combined lot. Do we have any protection for that in the new version on page 311?
So, I think your question is, can you put an accessory structure on a lot without a principal structure?
Yes, this is within this lot combination.
And right now, but right now in the zoning, we don't allow you to have an accessory structure without a principal, so that's covered in the
So
chapter.
it's covered.
Mhm.
Okay.
That's the discussion that we've been having with the boathouse
Yes.
association that
Yes.
hasn't been resolved.
That tracks. Okay,
Thank you, Jack.
All right,
thank you, everyone.
I'll do some research, Laura and I'll get.
All right, you're gonna come back with some revisions, mobile homes
I did
and.
find it.
All right.
Listen to the-
Would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We're adjourned. Thank you.
10?
15